to show you how to make this super cute pom-pom turkey. It's made with just some yarn, some felt, and some wiggly eyes. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you how to do this. It's very quick and easy. For this project, you're going to need some yarn. I'm just using some number 4 worsted weight yarn, acrylic yarn you can get at the craft store, very inexpensive. It's just like your basic craft yarn, just nothing too fancy. And I have this tan color. You could do brown, you could do tan, just like a shade of brown. This would be a nice color as well that I have this felt here, but just a beige or a brown or a tan, something like that. We're going to be using some felt. We're going to make the feathers out of felt. So I grabbed just some scraps. You don't need a whole entire sheet. If you have little scraps laying around, that's perfect. I grabbed some colors that were kind of like fall leaf colors, but you could do rainbow colors. It's totally up to you with your turkey. For this project, you're going to need some yarn, beige, tan, brown, just something for your turkey's body. That's what we're going to be making the pom-pom out of. Okay, I have some tan yarn. This is number 4 worsted weight acrylic yarn. You can easily find something like this at the craft store. It doesn't really matter if it's the same weight as what I'm using, just something in a turkey body color. Okay. We're also going to be using some felt. Felt is very cheap. You can buy it by the sheet at the craft store. We're not going to use a full sheet of this, just little scraps. So I just grabbed some fall leaf colors like brown, dark green, orange, yellow, red. But you could do rainbow, you could do your favorite colors. This is a great way, if you're doing this project with kids, for them to make like their own personal turkey of their own colors that they like. Okay? We're also going to need some 2 eyes, some wiggly eyes. They come in a pack at the craft store, just 2 of those per pom-pom. And then for the beak and the wattle, which is the red thing that hangs down the side of the turkey's beak is what it's called. I just grabbed a yellow bead for the beak. These are pony beads, plastic pony beads you can get at the craft store. And then I'm going to take a red bead and put it next to it just to create that look. Okay, so you'll just need 2 beads, 1 red, 1 yellow, a pair of scissors, and we're going to use hot glue. Now, if you're making this project with kids, and you don't want to use hot glue if it's a little bit unsafe, you could use some craft glue as well. But craft glue just takes longer. I like to let it dry overnight. Hot glue dries a little bit quicker and cools quicker. So it's totally up to you. I'm going to be using hot glue though in this tutorial. So let's get started. We're going to make our pom-pom first. Now, if you've never made a pom-pom, that's totally fine. You don't need any fancy tools. I'm going to show you how to do it with just your hands and a pair of scissors, okay? So cut a piece of yarn about 12 inches long, like the length of a ruler. And then we're gonna take more yarn and we're gonna make the pom-pom. We're gonna use that to wrap around the pom-pom. But what we wanna do is start wrapping the yarn around our fingers, okay? So let the yarn come down the front of your hand like so, and we're gonna start to wrap it around all 4 fingers, okay? So each time you go over your index finger, count that as 1 wrap. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 158, 159, and 160. So I wrapped mine about 160 times around my hand. So what we're going to do next is cut the yarn. And as you can see, we can move this out of the way. I have a huge bundle of yarn around my hand. Okay, it's going to make a nice big fluffy pom-pom. So what we want to do now is take our yarn and lay it down on a table, which is the most easiest way to do this. Just carefully slip your bundle off your hand and you can lay it down right on your surface. Okay, make sure these 2 tails are sticking down so they don't come unraveled. And you can just lay that right down on that yarn that you cut. Now, as an option, it's not totally necessary. You can grab your hot glue gun, and as you tie, we're going to tie this around this whole bundle. As you tie this around, what you can do is put a little dab of hot glue in there, and that will kind of lock this yarn into place. Now, you want to tie this really, really tight. The tighter, the better. But there's a fine line here. You don't want to tie it so tight that it's going to break the yarn, because then your pom-pom will just come apart, okay? So what I like to do is kind of take my bundle and take a little dab of hot glue, because this is going to kind of lock it into place. Don't do too much because it can melt the yarn. But I'm just kind of squirting it down into that bundle, and we're going to tie it down. I'm going to do just another little dab. We're We're just going to kind of work it in there and tie it down, okay? Now just apply some firm pressure, but be very careful not to break the yarn, okay? Now you don't want to go too, see I'm just kind of holding it in place? You don't want to go too hard on this because it could melt the yarn, okay? So after like a couple seconds or so, you can sort of let go and it kind of stays in place. And then you can kind of like squish it down on top of that glue. And then I would let this just set up for just a minute. Now with craft glue, this is going to be a little bit harder to do. But again, this is completely optional. Just kind of keep your turkey held together a little bit extra. Okay, it's totally up to you how you want to do it. And then we're just going to tie this once or twice more just to secure it in place. Now, if you want to tie your turkey onto something, leave these two tails in place. But otherwise, what we're going to do is we're just going to cut all the loops and tails until we have a perfectly round circle. So next, we can scoot our hot glue gun. Next, just cut all the loops that you see. The only loop you don't want to cut is the one that went around your bundle, okay? So go ahead and cut all the loops. And as you can see, we're not using any fancy pom-pom tools. There are a lot of pom-pom making tools. Some people prefer that. If you prefer that, feel free to do that instead. But if you don't want to buy a pom-pom maker, you can just make it like this. This is how I make all my pom-poms. All right, now, when you're done cutting your loops, you may find a few here and there that you want to trim, but your turkey is going to look very kind of wild and kind of shaggy looking. So we want to give our turkey a haircut. So what you're going to do now, and this is, now I'm doing this to show you on camera, but try doing this over a trash can. It's a lot less messy. But we're just going to start shaping up our turkey, okay? And just cut all its ends so they're all the same length. Now, a little tip when you're trimming up your turkey like this is the closer in that you cut, the denser your pom-pom is going to look. See, my strands are pretty long, so they kind of flop over. But if we start cutting it a little closer in, as you can see here, you can see it gets a little bit more dense and uniform looking, okay? I would start just giving it a light trim and then come a little bit closer as you go, okay? You don't want to cut it too far in to begin, because you can always cut more, okay? You can't uncut. So just give it a little haircut that way. And I found a couple more loops. I'm going to cut those. You may find some loops here and there that you missed, then that's fine. But just trim your turkey so that it looks nice and neat and uniform. Now, once you get it shaped up, what you can do is kind of take it in your hands and fluff it up really nicely. And as you can see, as I fluffed it, and you can kind of shake it a little bit, there's some long pieces that are now showing. So give those a trim. So this part takes a few minutes, and I find it to be very fun and relaxing to do. It's like a little haircut for your pom-pom, okay? So keep going around and trimming. And if your pom-pom still looks a little bit wild, all you do is trim it a little closer in. Okay, our turkey has been trimmed up and looks wonderful. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create some feathers, okay? So grab your felt, and the feathers are really easy to cut. Just cut a little scrap of felt. Let's start with some red. And just to make the feathers, what you'll do is just cut a curve this way, and then a curve this way, just like that, okay? And we have our turkey feather. They don't have to be perfect, and what we're going to be doing is gluing them to our pom-pom, okay? So you want to just cut a few of each color, and I think it's easy to start with a square like that. You can even use the first one you cut as a template. And I'm going to just kind of freehand mine, and we're going to cut a curve this way. And it helps if you have some sharp scissors as well. And a curve the other way, okay? And then just repeat for your other colors. And then if you want your turkey to look very full, you could even do 2 of each color, okay? So remember, a curve this way, and you can turn it over and cut a curve that way, okay? And you can start to build a little collection of them over here, okay? So I'm gonna go through and cut some more feathers, and then when we rejoin, we'll glue them on. Okay, so I went ahead and cut the feathers. Again, no exact template for this. I just did a curve this way and a curve this way, all right? Now, you can put these in any order you like. I'm gonna kind of arrange them before I start gluing them. We'll just do it like that. So I did green, yellow, orange, red, brown, just to kind of almost like sort of a rainbow order, but not really. But see how I have them shaped? And then we'll glue them to our turkey, okay? So for the turkey, what we wanna do is hold our pom-pom and we wanna kind of split open the yarn like this. See how I'm like opening up the pom-pom? Because we're gonna kind of tuck them into the middle here like this, all right? So go ahead and take your hot glue gun and we're just gonna put some glue down into our pom-pom so we can start tucking our feathers in there. So I just put like a little blob. Don't go too heavy on the glue because you could melt everything, all right? And we're just gonna sort of lay them, and this is why it helps to kind of lay your feathers out to start. All right, and then we still have some on this side, so just kind of open this up. And don't worry about them being perfectly even. We can arrange them a little bit before the glue dries, okay? So just open your pom-pom up, squirt some glue in there, and then just tuck a little feather down. You can use your yarn needle to kind of tap it down into place, and then open it up again for the next feather, and just take your time with this part, okay? Again, if you're using craft glue, you'll have a little bit more time to kind of arrange everything. And then if you're using hot glue, try using a tool to push that down in there, okay? And then we can take our turkey, and if you have anything else you need to trim, I have a few little, now that it's up against feathers, you can kind of see if it's uneven or not, okay? And get all those crumbs out of there. And you can see our turkey is starting to look more and more like a turkey every time we add something, all right? Now I kind of squish this down, but you want to kind of arrange your feathers the best you can. And our turkey looks really cute. Now, if you have some loose feathers, what you can also do is go into the back here, and see I'm squirting that down against the feather, and just kind of like press it back into the feather, okay? And you can do that for each feather so they stay in place. Just kind of like press it back in there, go into the back of this one, and press it back in, okay? Again, if you're doing craft glue, you can also do this with craft glue, just to kind of reinforce the back. And let's do that one while we're here. Okay, there we go. And then you can kind of just press that back onto our feather, okay? Now, fluff things up, trim things as needed, rearrange everything, and then you'll just want to kind of let your turkey sit and cool and dry for a minute. And you could very easily burn your finger, but just kind of like drop that eye right on there. And see these little strings of glue? We can remove those in just a minute. They're very easy to take off. All right, take another dab of glue and just kind of drop it right on there. Okay, now like I mentioned before, we have two beads that we're going to use for the beak and for the wattle, the red part that hangs down the side of the beak, okay? So all I did was I took a yellow bead and laid it on its side. So what I'm going to do is hold the bead and put some glue down just the side of one of the beads here. So take your yellow bead, glue, just do a little drop of glue. For the wattle part, we're going to take a bead and lay it on its side and sort of like fit it into the side of that, okay? So once again, put some glue on the back of the bead along the side. Okay, just like that. And then just press it in there so it's up against the yellow beak like that, okay? If you want to if you want to take some of your felt scraps though and make the beak and the wattle out of some felt, I'm going to show you how to do that too. So for the beak, it's super easy. Just take a little piece of yellow and you're just going to cut a little triangle, okay? So we're going to just cut a triangle, very simple, out of the yellow, okay? Now, if you cut your triangle and it looks too big, you can cut it down a little bit smaller. I think this one's a little bit big, so I'm just going to cut it down a little bit, okay? So here is my yellow beak for my turkey. And I'm going to just trim the front of this a little bit just to get it a little bit flatter. Okay, so here's the beak. Now for the wattle part, what we're going to do is cut the letter L out, okay? It's very easy if you just cut the letter L. So I'm going to take basically cut a rectangle and then cut into the rectangle and make the letter L, okay? Now, that's going to be our wattle, but it looks a little bit too geometric. So you can kind of round off those square edges a little bit and cut it. You can cut it a little shorter if you want to. But I'm just going to cut basically the letter L and just round off the corners a little bit, okay? All right, then we're going to take our little shape that we just created and we're just going to lay it on top like that. See how that looks? Okay, so then what you'll do is, let me just zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. We're going to take our felt and just put a little dab of glue on the back of it, okay? All right, so just take a little dab of glue and then we're just going to like lay it right down there, right under the eyes, okay? Make sure you leave yourself a little bit of space though for this part. Okay, now we have our next piece, and I would recommend just kind of laying it on there before you do it. Make sure it looks okay. I'm just going to take a little bit more off of this. You might need to trim it up and test it out, and trim it up and test it out. Okay, now apply some glue to the back of this. Just really careful because it's a small little piece of felt here. And then just ever so carefully, now this glue dries pretty quick, so ever so carefully, just lay it right on that beak. It's a little bit on top of the beak, at least on that corner, okay? And just kind of lay it down on there, okay? And so our turkey is done. It looks so cute, and whether you choose the felt or the bead for the beak and everything is totally up to you, but I did want to show you both options. So that is how you make a Pom Pom turkey. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and leave your comments below if you made this turkey as well. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Sparkle and Splatter video updates. Bye everyone!